Since 1942, nuclear power has been a growing presence in the world of energy. As of mid-2017, 449 nuclear power plants are being operated worldwide. Roughly 20% of electricity generated in the US during 2016 has been through nuclear power, which is a lot. But even with how popular nuclear power has become, there are still a lot of people who don't know anything about it past the negative aspects. When someone says nuclear reactor, usually the first thing people think of are disasters such as Chernobyl or nuclear waste. With these things at the forefront of everyone's minds, it's easy to make the connection that nuclear energy is bad, but that's far from the truth. While there are a lot of risks involved with nuclear power, and we will get into those, we should get to know the whole picture first. Nuclear energy, like some other energy sources, uses boiling water to produce steam, which in turn spins turbines. However, the heat required to boil the water is produced not through burning fuel, but instead through using nuclear reactors. These are machines designed to cause nuclear fission, a process where uranium atoms are split into two smaller atoms. These are removed from the system as nuclear waste and are dealt with separately. Most nuclear power plants have multiple different reactors, allowing tons of energy to be produced. In 2015, the Palo Verde Nuclear Station in Arizona produced 32,525,595 megawatt hours of electricity. Nuclear power plants are a great resource for producing energy, but like everything, there are still downsides to this method. We're going to take a look at a few of them, along with some of the positives as well. Starting off with a positive, nuclear energy is incredibly efficient. The amount of energy produced by nuclear fuel is 24 million times the amount produced by the same quantity of coal. Nuclear reactors are also very eco-friendly, producing very little greenhouse gas emissions, about 17 times less than natural gas and 36 times less than lignite. Additionally, nuclear energy is very cheap. Uranium isn't an expensive fuel, and while the reactors may cost a lot to build, they're super low cost to run. But the downsides of nuclear energy come with the danger of using radioactive materials. One such risk is the mishandling of nuclear waste, which has a very long half-life, meaning it will stay radioactive for a long period of time. Most of the time, waste is treated properly and isn't a danger, but if it's thrown into the environment, it can cause serious damage to an ecosystem. Another risk is the potential for a nuclear disaster. While there are systems and protocols in place to prevent any disasters, sometimes these protocols fail and nuclear disasters occur. Nuclear disasters usually occur due to some fault in the reactors or a natural disaster of some kind. These cause the reactors to overheat and melt, causing potential explosions and releasing radiation everywhere. This can cause incredible damage to the environment around them. The radiation outputted by the Chernobyl disaster, the most well-known nuclear disaster in history, wiped out an entire pine forest, causing all the trees to turn red and die. The Red Forest is still the most contaminated area to this day. A strong nuclear disaster could wipe out an entire ecosystem, and in turn, the inhabitants who depended on that ecosystem. The radiation also caused severe mutations in the living beings around the disaster. Animals and humans both began to be born with severe deformities and multiple limbs, and humans exposed to the radiation suffered an increased chance of developing cancers. Another famous nuclear disaster, Fukushima Daiichi, had similar effects. A 13-meter tsunami struck the plant, causing tons of radiation to be spread across the area. The radiation infected the ocean water, which caused damage to the inhabitants. It also harmed the fishing market, as people could no longer use the local fish as a food source. The radiation also infected the soil around the area, which affected the growing plants and farms. There are tons more examples I could go into, but the effects are consistent. They all can seriously threaten the sustainability of any species involved. While they're very infrequent, nuclear disasters are so harmful that they cause nuclear energy to be seen negatively, even despite the positives. This is understandable, as the amount of damage caused isn't to be taken lightly. There are a few things that can be done to lessen the chances of a potential disaster. Some of them are more efficient than others. Obviously, we could just stop using nuclear energy, but that would be a huge downgrade to all of society, and it's 100% not worth it to do this. Another method would be to isolate the nuclear plants to remote desert areas, where the ecosystem affected is as minimal as possible. Obviously, taking down and rebuilding power plants isn't an easy thing to do, and is very costly, but this would definitely prevent any ecosystem damage. The thing is, it's not worth it to implement this, as any chances of nuclear disasters happening are so low that the costs severely outweigh the benefits. The best solution to this problem is to simply up the preventative measures as high as possible. Having extra security is never a bad thing, and why settle for lowering the risk of disasters when you could just lower the rate of the disasters? That sounds like a better idea, doesn't it? Although maybe the best idea would just be to let more disasters happen. Interestingly, since the Chernobyl disaster, lots of animals have begun to inhabit the surrounding area, from deer and wolves to red foxes and tanuki. The isolation from humanity made it a prime destination for diverse wildlife to spring up. If the result of the largest nuclear disaster in history is the most pristine wildlife reserve, untouched by all of humanity, are nuclear disasters really that bad? No, they're still pretty bad.